Hey everyone, my name is Terry, and today I'm going to tell you about something absolutely insane I did last week. I spent 24 hours living exactly like a billionaire. And look, I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another privileged story about buying expensive stuff. But hold on, because what I discovered completely flipped everything I thought I knew about wealth, happiness, and what we're all actually chasing when we dream about being rich. Now, why did I do this? Well, I've been fascinated by this question for years. Why do so many lottery winners, professional athletes, and people who suddenly come into massive wealth end up broke or miserable? Like 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years. 70%. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. And I wanted to understand it from the inside. So I created a simulation. I gave myself a budget of $50,000. Yeah, $50,000 to experience one day as close to billionaire level luxury as possible. And what happened? Well, let me just say this. By hour 18, I was ready to go back to my normal life, and not for the reasons you'd expect. Okay, so here's how it started. 6 a.m. I wake up, but not in my bed. I rented a $15,000 per night penthouse suite at a 5-star hotel. That's right, $15,000 for one night. The math on that is insane. That's $5.4 million per year just on where you sleep. If you're making even $500,000 a year, which puts you in the top 1% of earners, you'd be spending your entire income 11 times over just on housing. The room was incredible, don't get me wrong. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a bathroom bigger than most people's bedrooms, a mattress that probably cost more than a used car. But here's what nobody tells you about luxury. It becomes normal shockingly fast. I'm serious. By the time I finished my $200 breakfast, yes, $200 for eggs Benedict and fresh squeezed orange juice, I wasn't even tasting it anymore. The psychology behind this is called hedonic adaptation, and it's the silent killer of the money equals happiness dream. See, studies show that once you reach about $75,000 to $95,000 in annual income, depending on where you live, additional money has a dramatically reduced impact on day-to-day happiness. You know what does impact happiness? Relationships, purpose, autonomy, and health. But here's the thing. The billionaire lifestyle actually makes most of those harder to achieve. So next up, I hired a private chef, a personal trainer, a driver, and an assistant for the day. Total cost? About $8,000 for all of them combined. Now you might be thinking, that sounds amazing. People doing everything for you. And yeah, for the first hour it was cool. But then something weird started happening. I felt disconnected. My driver took me to a private gym, $500 for a single session with an elite trainer. While I'm there, I realized I couldn't just chat casually with anyone. Everyone around me was either working for me or in a similar bubble. There's this invisible wall that goes up when you're operating at that level of luxury. People treat you differently. And this is where it gets really interesting from a financial psychology standpoint. Research from Harvard and Princeton shows that wealthier people actually have smaller social networks and report feeling more socially isolated. Why? Because every interaction becomes transactional. You start wondering, do they like me or my money? Are they being nice because of who I am or what I can do for them? The billionaire lifestyle isn't just expensive financially, it's expensive emotionally. You're essentially paying thousands of dollars to build walls around yourself. Let me give you the real numbers here. The average American spends about $1,800 per year on entertainment and social activities. Billionaires might spend $1.8 million. That's 1,000 times more. But studies on life satisfaction show their happiness levels are only marginally higher. We're talking maybe 10–15% more life satisfaction. So you're spending 1,000 times more money for 15% more happiness. That's the worst return on investment you could possibly imagine. Okay, so afternoon hits. I went shopping. Not regular shopping, billionaire shopping. I walked into a luxury car dealership and test drove a $380,000 Bentley. Then I hit the high-end boutiques, dropped $12,000 on clothes in less than an hour, designer everything. And here's what hit me. I didn't need any of it. Not one single thing. That $3,500 jacket? I have a $60 jacket at home that keeps me just as warm. Those $800 shoes? My $70 sneakers are more comfortable. But the really crazy part? The stuff I was buying didn't even feel like mine. It felt like I was playing dress up, like I was wearing a costume of who I thought a rich person should be. This is what psychologists call identity foreclosure. We adopt an identity based on external signals, the car we drive, the clothes we wear, the watch in our wrist, instead of building an identity based on our values, skills, and relationships. And the luxury industry is built entirely on exploiting this psychological vulnerability. Think about it. A $20,000 Rolex and a $50 Casio both tell time perfectly. The Rolex isn't 400 times better at its function. You're paying $19,950 for the signal it sends to other people. You're literally spending $20,000 to change what strangers think about you for the 3 seconds they glance at your wrist. Now, most people don't realize this, but there's actual research on what's called conspicuous consumption. That's the fancy term for buying expensive stuff to show off. Studies show that people who engage in high levels of conspicuous consumption report lower levels of life satisfaction, higher stress, and more anxiety about maintaining their image. You're not buying happiness, you're buying homework. Because now you have to maintain that image. You have to keep up. You have to make sure everyone knows you're still at that level. Evening comes around, and I booked a table at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. Not just any table, a private dining room. Cost? $6,000 for dinner for two. I brought a friend who was in on the experiment. The food was incredible, I won't lie, but you know what we talked about the whole time? How weird and uncomfortable the whole experience felt. The servers hovering constantly, the forced formality, the fact that we couldn't just relax and be ourselves. We spent $6,000 to feel stressed. Here's something fascinating. Behavioral economists have found that experiences generally make us happier than material goods. But not all experiences are created equal. The experiences that create lasting happiness are the ones where we feel connected, challenged, and authentic. A $6,000 dinner doesn't check any of those boxes. You know what does? A $40 dinner with friends where you laugh until your stomach hurts. A $20 hiking trip where you challenge yourself physically and mentally. A $0 conversation with someone you love where you both feel truly understood. The billionaire lifestyle promises freedom, but it delivers the opposite. You become a slave to maintaining appearances, managing staff, protecting assets, and filling time with expensive activities that don't actually fulfill you. And here's the math that really blew my mind. If you took the $50,000 I spent on this experiment and instead invested it in a simple index fund averaging 8% annual returns, in 30 years, that will be worth $503,000, $500,000. That single day of luxury would cost you $500,000 in retirement money. But let's think even bigger. Most people dream about being a billionaire, right? Let's say you somehow got $1 billion tomorrow. Congratulations! Now what? If you spent $10,000 every single day, every day for the rest of your life, it would take you 274 years to spend it all, assuming you were in zero interest. You literally cannot spend it fast enough. So what do you do with it? The paradox of extreme wealth is that it becomes meaningless specifically because there's too much of it. By nighttime, I'm back in that $15,000 penthouse suite. I'm exhausted, not from physical activity, but from maintaining this artificial lifestyle. And I started thinking about all the billionaires who've spoken candidly about wealth. Warren Buffett still lives in the house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He's worth over $100 billion, and he lives in a house that would cost maybe $850,000 today. When asked why, he said, "I'm happy there. I'd move if I thought I'd be happier someplace else." Chuck Feeney gave away nearly his entire $8 billion fortune anonymously and said, "I had one idea that never changed in my mind, that you should use your wealth to help people." These aren't people who don't know what luxury is. They've experienced it all, and they consciously chose differently. Here's what I realized during my 24-hour experiment. The billionaire lifestyle isn't actually designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you look successful to other people. It's an elaborate peacock display. And just like a peacock's tail, it's heavy, impractical, and exists solely for show. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, "But Terry, you just didn't have enough time to adjust. If you lived like that for a year, you'd love it." And maybe that's true, but that's actually the scariest part, because hedonic adaptation works both ways. You'd eventually adapt to the luxury and it would feel normal, which means you'd need even more expensive experiences to feel that same excitement. It's literally the same psychology as addiction. You need a bigger dose to get the same high. And there's always someone with a bigger yacht, a faster jet, a more expensive watch. So here's the truth I discovered. The billionaire lifestyle isn't about having more, it's about wanting less. Real wealth isn't measured in your bank account, it's measured in your time, your relationships, your health, and your peace of mind. Let me give you the framework I'm using now after this experiment. I call it the enough equation. First, calculate your actual happiness baseline. What annual income would cover your needs, allow for reasonable wants, and provide security? For most people in the U.S., research suggests this is somewhere between $75,000 and $150,000, depending on location and family size. Second, identify what I call your joy multipliers, the things that genuinely make you happy that have nothing to do with status or comparison. For me, it's deep conversations, creative projects, physical challenges, and time in nature. Most of these cost almost nothing. Third, automate your path to financial security. Set up automatic investments that will get you to financial independence, the point where your money works for you and you don't have to work for money. For most people, saving and investing 15 to 25% of your income consistently will get you there in 20 to 30 years. And fourth, and this is the big one, consciously reject the comparison game. Unfollow the luxury accounts. Stop measuring yourself against other people's highlight reels. Define success on your own terms. Look, I spent $50,000 in 24 hours to learn something I could have learned for free. Happiness isn't at the end of the wealth rainbow. It's in the life you're living right now, in the relationships you have, in the purpose you create, in the person you're becoming. The billionaire lifestyle is seductive because it promises to solve all your problems, but it doesn't solve them. It just gives you more expensive versions of the same problems. So here's my challenge to you. Take whatever financial goal you have right now. Maybe it's making $100,000 a year, maybe it's becoming a millionaire, maybe it's retiring early. And ask yourself, why do I want this? What do I think it will give me? And is there a way to get that feeling, that freedom, that security without sacrificing the next 30 years of my life chasing a number? Because here's what I know now. The richest person isn't the one with the most money, it's the one who needs the least to be happy. Thanks for watching. If this changed how you think about wealth and happiness, hit that like button and subscribe for more real talk about money psychology. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you do if you had 24 hours as a billionaire? Would you make the same choices I did? I'm Terry, and I'll see you in the next one.